What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is September 23rd of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, I want to start off by diving into something that I truly believe little to no one is watching in regards to Bitcoin's price that is going to be extremely important in understanding what kind of time frame we can expect Bitcoin to break all-time highs above 20K. Outside of that as well, we'll dive into some altcoins that we talked about yesterday and the good performance we had yesterday as well. And last but not least, we're going to be taking a look at a sponsored review for a project known as VIDT. So I recommend you guys stay tuned for that. You won't want to miss it. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and start off here, guys. Just taking a look across the board of the market. We'll dive straight into Bitcoin after. We can see here the vast majority of cryptocurrencies here neutral territory over the last 24 hours, starting to hint more towards the green side, and we can start to see that a lot of these are actually plays we talked about yesterday. Omise Go, Uniswap, Ampliford. Those are the three plays that I focused on for the month of October that I'm really kind of picking up and watching in this dip. It was really awesome to see the good response to the market yesterday in this case. I think a lot of these plays were just clearly oversold in this case, and we're also market leaders in innovative parts of DeFi and enterprise blockchain, and also scaling layer 1 in this case with layer 2 solutions. So let's go ahead here. We're going to dive into something that might shock you here. We're taking a look at gold. So why are we taking a look at gold here? Well, I want to talk about the similarities between gold and Bitcoin in the sense of price action, because there's not only some very striking similarities here with how gold and Bitcoin have started to prepare for the next bull market, but along with that as well, people constantly are making the comparison of Bitcoin being digital gold. I mean, let's be honest, guys. I mean, like, we don't really see people using Bitcoin and gold simultaneously to try to pick off of the price action on one another. But don't you constantly hear about how, Bitcoin is digital gold, it's gold 2.0? I hear about it all the time, and I think, to be fair, it's a fair comparison. It's an improved version of gold, in my opinion, on a fundamental basis with its finite supply, right? So I know I don't talk a lot about Bitcoin, but in that case, I know you guys hopefully understand that I like Bitcoin as an asset. I think it's very important in the long term with the kind of ability it provides for people to have something that's finite in supply. So anyways, I digress. I'll stop rambling. Let's go ahead and talk about what I want to discuss today. What I want to discuss today is how gold and Bitcoin have similar activities in the sense of price. And the thing that I want to emphasize here is we're taking a look at the weekly chart here for gold. Long-term chart, we're taking a look at the logarithmic chart. You'll notice here that gold had a few moments in time where it had resistance against a historic line of resistance and also a historic line of support here, right? A few retests here, 3 retests on both ends, right? And then we had a fourth one where we actually broke out, and gold had this resting period. I'll go ahead. And let me make sure, guys, I just realized that some of you guys were complaining. Sorry for my OBS window there. I know you guys were complaining my webcam was getting too much in the way sometimes, so I'll try to keep out of the way, and also make sure I push the relevant part of my chart to the center of the screen. Always listening to you guys. All right, so let's just talk about this here. We can see here that over a multi-month period here, gold had broken out here, right, back up to a previous resistance range, but it got out of this wedge that had been building up with the line of resistance and support, came down and rested here in April of 2019, and all the way over in July of 2020, so more than a year in this case, gold was able to enter into a nice rally here and substantially get back up to its all-time highs and even break to higher levels, coming down and looking like it's retesting it for support here. That's basically where gold's resting here, around 18 to 1900. So again, this is very important to keep in mind, because if we see Bitcoin being the digital gold, we're going to want to look to see if there's similarities in price, and also we have to understand as well, how much percentage in this case, if we have a similar pattern here, how much percentage do we have to expect that Bitcoin is going to have to leap up, and what time frame is it going to do so? Well, let's go ahead and actually take a look at Bitcoin. Good news, everyone. We've actually got Bitcoin doing the exact same thing. Back here in June, we were talking about this a while ago, back in May and June, that we were hoping for a chance where Bitcoin could pop up finally above this line of resistance and make it support. And what would you know, we actually got that. It came down here for a good 4 to 5 weeks here, riding along this line here. You can see here there was a wicks on each of these candles coming down, making it support. It wouldn't go down below. It kept bouncing back up. Buyers came in, and then the volume came in, and the price left the station. In that case, the rocket left the station. But in this case, we've already continued to set in these higher lows, higher highs. We're already seeing the signs here that we're not going back down here within the wedge, very clearly. So the only question here from now is that, okay, we're mimicking gold's price. How long is it going to take for Bitcoin to get back up to here? That's the big kahuna. It's the big question, right? So In that case, there's really two scenarios here that I really see possibly happening. You could say that we're going to have this 120% move that's from this bottom range where we made support on the line of resistance and then came up here to the all-time highs, or when we come up here to the all-time highs, it's going to be 120% no matter what scenario. Where it's 66 weeks, just like it was here with gold, right? It was 66 weeks to do a 50% move. So in this case, in 66 weeks, we're already giving something more optimistic. We're saying we're going to do a 120% move in 66 weeks. Or what more people are probably focusing it on, which is a more shorter term time frame of 33 weeks, doing half of the time it took for gold, and a 120% move in this case. So again, you have this kind of ballpark range that I think you can use, and quite healthily I can tell you all that I think we're going to break well beyond all-time highs before September of 2021. I'll go ahead and say that. I think very clearly this is the kind of worst case scenario here for Bitcoin, right? In the sense of like practical like scenarios of Bitcoin getting to 20K, right? But in this case, there's also a lot of you out there who believe that Bitcoin, no, by the end of this year, it's going to get up here to, by the end of the year, it's going to leap up towards 20,000. So within 28 weeks from this, or that's not even actually 28 weeks from now, this is starting back here in June, a lot of people believe, I'm just going to go ahead and move these aside here, that in 15 weeks, we are going to be to all-time highs. With the way Bitcoin's been moving, guys, do you really think that's going to happen? I can't say that. I really don't see the momentum right now. I do believe, yes, there are companies like MicroStrategy. Yes, there's all these things coming into par that are starting to acquire Bitcoin. But I want to be realistic with you all. Let's keep our estimations as conservative as possible because it's not going to hurt us if we have those conservative estimates. In this case, I really do believe it's something, if anything, that if we're lucky, it's going to be happening here in early February of 2021, in Q1 of 2021. This has been our target range since back in late 2019. We've been shooting for this kind of price range somewhere here in Q1 of 2021. We've been talking about it a lot in the newsletter. I've been talking about it here on the channel. I think it's a very healthy kind of range to look for. 33 weeks to do more than double of what gold did for its recovery. And the reason why that's possible is because it's market to scale. Gold is a multi-trillion-dollar market. Right now, I think it's sitting around like, a 12 to 13 trillion dollar valuation. Bitcoin is a $200 billion asset at these levels. Could easily make a 120% move from this point to this point, and then continue on to make crazy parabolic rallies afterwards. So it's got to play catch up against gold. But this is something so simple. Again, as people toss a dozen different indicators, they'll say, watch this one, moving average, or watch this or that. Guys, none of that matters. What matters here is analyzing the broader price over a multi-month time frame. And that's what we're doing here. We're looking at what Bitcoin will probably do for the next more than half a year to the next year. And we're doing very simple analysis to make sure we get a clear vision of what we can expect in regards to Bitcoin and how we can expect it to move there. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that analysis there. Wanted to go ahead, spend some time to talk about some of the altcoins we talked about yesterday. Yesterday, we made a pretty good call on some different altcoins that we're going to be looking at in October. Picked the support line here from Go, built our position down here in the low range, popped up here, and it's made a few hundred sats here on the move already. Good percentage gain here of about, I think, around like 10 to 15% in this case. So really nice move here from Go. And again, we just analyze simple price levels. No technical analysis. We didn't even use the SMS indicator. Looking here, we just basically watched it come down on previous support in the past, previous resistance, making it support. No crazy indicators needed, guys. Again, people will overcomplicate TA so much, guys. The best plays are found when you keep your TA as simple as possible. Taking a look at Ampleforth, another great example. Looking at the longer term time frame here, looking at the wedge here from this previous point of resistance, support, resistance. We're building into a descending wedge here where the resistance is dropping faster than the support, meaning that this is likely going to have a massive breakout, right? That's at least what I'm looking for here. I think Ampleforth as an asset is going to continue to emerge. It's going to continue to improve. It's got the network effect. And I think in this case, coming down here at this low range, we're now looking for it to start making its next move upward. And what does it look like it's probably going to go to next? What's the next big even? For me, I think it's a $300 million market cap. I think in this case that you've got possibly a 3x here. In this case, going into October, we've seen that it makes these major moves. When you have the positive rebases, people get really excited about it. So in that case, I think that we could easily go to 300 million here in this case, or 250 million as a more conservative estimate, right? Just kind of basically doing what we've done in the past here, where we spark off another rally. I'll go ahead and get my polyline tool here. where we start to base off these lows, start to tick upward, right? Start to climb up towards those higher valuations. So somewhere around that range here in mid-October. So again, could take a little bit longer. I remember last time we had estimations that actually was planning to go up here and break through, but it actually went much quicker in that case. So we'll see. Ampleforth is a wild asset. And then the last one I want to talk about here is Uniswap token, or Uni. In this case, you can see here Uni has broken out of what could be seen as maybe a descending wedge. In this case, the line of resistance was a little bit more steady than the line of support. All in all, here we kind of had a channel leading towards some losses here, breaking through there, building a higher base at $4 and ticking up higher. I've again been holding my Uni tokens, as I emphasized in yesterday's video, guys. I've been looking at even positioning myself in like a longer term hold where I go out and buy more Uni tokens, just simply for the fact that I think Uniswap is really one of the only fundamentally useful DeFi protocols that has major network effects, and where I actually feel in this case, whereas I could give you an example, we have Compound integrated into Digifox, for example. But I like Celsius better. I get much higher yields, and along with that as well, I trust Celsius in this case, and I feel like the risk reward there is actually much better to have my capital in Celsius. Whereas in the case of Uniswap, I'll be honest, guys, in a lot of cases, it's better to trade through Uniswap in many cases. I know there's the fee you have to pay, the 0.3%, but the availability to get these tokens earlier on, to be able to settle it instantly, to not have to go through account registrations, to not have to worry about downtimes or maintenance. If you just know how to properly pay the right gas fee, then presto, you're able to swap into any different asset you want. And I think that the ability to have a stake in the network token in this case, or the governance token in this protocol early on, is going to be really interesting. And again, the supply in this case is quite limited in the sense of the overall available supply on the market that will be available in the next few years. So I think that after people have claimed their airdrops and a lot of people sold it, kind of panic sold it, there's going to be a lot of dry up here for Uni as a token. So anyways, just wanted to talk about that. Price action's been great so far. Going to keep on staying in these plays. Haven't made any adjustments to my trades. Just to be clear with you guys, haven't swapped anything yet. So we're going to continue to see what happens. Now, I want to talk here a little bit about stablecoins. Stablecoins, if you guys haven't been watching since the start of the year, have more than doubled here in this case. In this case, we have seen Tether more than triple its supply since back at the start of the year. Along with that as well, USDC, right? Going back here towards the beginning of the year, around 439 million coins in circulation, almost, I would say actually in this case, almost 5xing. So we're seeing massive growth in stablecoins across the board, from the well-regulated, well-audited ones like USDC, all the way to plays here, such as Tether in this case, that are very, very clearly showcasing a demand for stablecoins and therefore the yields that you can get with stablecoins. But this is something that I've constantly heard, and maybe I'm missing something. I'd like to hear from you guys. Again, I'm always one to say, like, I probably am missing something here. But this is something that the European Central Bank has constantly brought up about being concerned about stablecoin runs. And basically, they're talking about how there's going to be a run on, like, the distrust of stablecoins, and they're going to come back and run for their actual dollars. And maybe that could happen in Tether, if there isn't a full backing of the actual dollars in the system. But here's the thing I'm curious about, right? First off, for Tether, for any kind of actual issuance of Tether that isn't created out of thin air in this case, there is actual dollars probably backing the system in this case. If there was people putting dollars in, Tether's probably going to be smart enough to hold those dollars, or Bitfinex in this case is going to be smart enough to hold those dollars and then allow people to claim them back later on. And the second thing here is for USDC, where we know that there's a clear audit, there's a clear review of the actual dollars and backing, and there's a one-to-one here. There can't be a bank run. I mean, sure, maybe USDC might be upset they put all this investment into the infrastructure of USDC and building up these systems, and then all of a sudden people are maybe withdrawing, but there's dollars in the system, dollars backing it. I just don't really get how there could be a run on the bank like in this case, whereas in a traditional bank, fractional reserves can be single digits, right? You could have 5 or 3 or 7% reserves for the actual credit that you've created. So there could be $10 billion in the bank when in reality, there's 300 million, 400 million. That's not going to play out very well when people come running for it. I know that USDC, with how it's gone about building its infrastructure, there's no way you could get down to 3 or 5% reserves. And I just don't get, again, I just really don't get Christine Lagarde and like the ECB's concern about this. More than anything, it sounds like just a sense of FUD or just kind of fake argument that they make constantly about it. But I'd like to hear from you guys on this. Anyways, all in all, guys, that's it for the core part of the video. I want to go ahead and say if you like the video, please drop a like. And if you're ready, we're going to go ahead and dive into the sponsored review of VID. Alrighty, everyone. So in today's sponsored review, we're going to be taking a look over a project known as VID or VIDT. It's a project focused on something that I think is extremely important and doesn't get talked about enough when in reality, it's a very lightweight and useful application of blockchain technology and verifying specific information. So let's go ahead and talk about just the general gist of what VID is about. As many of you know, blockchain technology does a really good job of verifying specific information. We use it for financial transactions. We use it for all types of different forms of data that we're, again, going back to analyze or query to see whether or not it's accurate or not, right? That's the thing about blockchain. It's trustless. Well, we have a very big problem in today's world, and that is trusting the data that we exchange. And that's not just financial transactions. It can deal with documentation. It can deal with contracts. Imagine for a moment if I sent you a copy of my degree, or I sent you a business deal that had multiple signature fields in it. What if I had faked those specific signatures to give you the illusion that someone had agreed to a certain business deal? Again, there's all types of different ways where people can commit fraud in this day and age where there's so much data being exchanged, but no way to verify it. And that's the really cool thing about VID. It utilizes blockchain technology in conjunction with its own technology to be able to provide a seamless experience for people to, whether it be through an API or through a direct interaction with one of their websites, be able to verify specific files. And this is the really cool thing about it. I love that there's a kind of an immutable trace in this case to verify that documentation actually exists and it hasn't been tampered with. So you can always make sure you have the right form of the file. Now going through here, there's a lot of different resources that we can pull through to learn about it. The major thing though I want to say off the bat here is, again, the whole focus is certification. It's about focusing on whether or not a document is the original copy, that it hasn't been tampered with. And you can do this through a mixture of different techniques and methods, such as tracking the address where, again, this file was created on chain. You can do the transaction hash in this case. There's all types of different elements that go into actually building this. But it's an actual technological solution that's been utilized by companies like IBM, law firms, and a lot of different types of kind of innovative companies that are looking at these types of technologies to verify data that goes through their systems and also that they interact with themselves. So I wanted to go ahead here and just recommend that if you wanted like a quick summary, if I didn't do it justice in detailing it, I'm sure that Joshua here would do a really good job of that. I watched through this video. It's a very short, kind of brief summary of what VID is trying to do. So I recommend you guys go watch that. Again, if you feel like after this video you're not getting enough information on it. But I wanted to go ahead and dive into this topic of case studies here because I think it's best to kind of visualize this in a sense and how it works. But even before we dive into the technicals of how it operates on the back end and how it's plugging into all types of networks like Phantom and LTO network, a lot of the partnerships that they formed, I think what's probably most important is just kind of analyzing, some of the case studies and some of the companies that they're working with. So as you scroll down here, there's a few different companies like Amspec here, in this case, as well as companies like CMS Law. This is a company that VID works with quite closely in regards to legal assessment. And outside of that as well, companies like IBM and other blockchain networks like LTO Network. We've got Phantom, all types of different providers here where they're either, in regards to their partnership, partnering with these chains to store information, LTO network being a very scalable network, allowing people to be able to store and validate information very quickly, but also working with some of these direct companies. You can dive into the individual case studies here, read a little bit about it here, and again, trying to focus in on data integrity. This is the whole goal here of VID. It's making sure that there's not going to be any tampering of information and making sure that you can, actually utilize this system within traditional cloud architecture, traditional systems, or enterprise-ready systems that a lot of companies are using. So again, I highly recommend diving into some of the individual case studies. They even have some of these individual, videos that kind of explain how they're actually working with some of these companies like IBM, just to give you a little bit more context. It can sometimes be a bit difficult to understand, how are these projects actually working with these specific blockchain tools that we're talking about. Now, one thing that I wanted to discuss here in regards to just kind of focusing in on the actual core technology itself and how VID actually goes about providing, or in this case, the VIDT data link actually goes about providing this service and kind of leveraging off of public blockchains in order to verify this information. So if we go down here, we can scroll down. We have a really nice visual here. There's an actual animation on their Twitter page that I zoomed in a little bit to kind of just showcase it happening in action. There's a few key steps here. So basically, you have a few key things you have to focus on. There's a few different parts to the component of actually getting data created to having it validated somewhere where it can't be tampered with. So you have the publishers in this case. So in this case, this could be platforms like Salesforce or SAP, all types of different enterprise systems where there's data moving through. You could interact through a cloud service in between, but you're mainly going to be interacting with the VIDT API in this case, which is going to plug into the private cloud and therefore leverage onto one of many different blockchains. We have Binance Chain, the Bitcoin blockchain. In this case, you have Phantom, Digibyte, LTO, Hyperledger, whatever it may be. Basically plugging into these systems and leveraging this technology to be able to have a relatively high secure degree of determining, this document has not been tampered with. Right? So all those examples we talked about earlier, making sure that in this case you're getting the right source of the data so that there is no chance of people tampering with this information. So I think it's very, very important, and I think it's a really interesting technology and kind of flow for how users interact with it. Again, one thing I wanted to emphasize as you can go through on the actual website, they actually have a verify website you can jump to, v-id.org, and basically all you have to do is drag a file in. So you can drag a file in this case that, that it has a VID certificate in this case, and you can see, yes, this is the actual file. This is the exact same one on chain. And this is due to, again, the methods that they utilize, from the address that it's verified on to the hash. There's all types of different methods that are utilized in order to make sure that not only in this case that we're getting the right document, but also important as well is that it's GDPR compliant. So again, your data is protected, it's secure in this case. The architectural way that they went about doing this, I think, is actually quite interesting. Again, very lightweight for the most part as well. It's not requiring that I have to install anything. I just basically drag a file, and I can figure out in that case whether or not the information is verifiable. So I think this is really fascinating. Now, there are some things I wanted to talk about. There is the obvious token in this case for the network that is important to keep in mind. One of the things that the team is obviously making very clear through their actions is that they want to have this be a very kind of revenue-based token in this case, where they are going to not only buy back tokens in this case, but along with it as well, burn tokens over time. So again, I think this is very important when you're talking about utility tokens. It's very important to see some kind of burn program where, again, the team is removing some from the supply, they're buying back tokens. It's very important to just kind of showcase that there is some kind of actual, tie towards the utility token and the performance of the network and the technology. So I think that this is also very important. The last thing I wanted to reference to, though, if you're kind of interested in learning a little bit more about data link in this case and how it operates, there's a really great interview with Joshua and also Leah Heilpern as well, where you can actually learn a little bit more about how it actually operates. They also have Marnix, I forgot his name in this case, Marnix in this case as well, who's in the interview, where you actually be able to kind of learn a little bit more about how it actually operates, the value proposition, how big of an issue this is, and a lot more information. So I recommend you guys check that out. Leah always does a good job in the interviews. And outside of that as well, you can dive into the roadmap to learn a little bit more about what VIDT is aiming to do here in regards to quarter 3 and beyond, in regards to some new features, partnerships, and overall technical goals of the project. But all in all, I like to kind of summarize things off with my just clean-cut, honest take on it, taking a look at the good and the bad. Above all, VID seems like an actual use case for blockchain. It's kind of refreshing, especially in a space where there's so much noise, to actually see something that actually has a real team, is generating real revenue, is making actual, actionable partnerships in this case, where we don't see that a lot in the cryptocurrency space. And again, above all, is really just kind of getting down to something that's actually relevant and actually uses blockchain and a lot of different public blockchains for that matter in a unique way. The one thing I will say above all is I love seeing these kind of steps about abstracting the process, abstracting this ability to verify files. I hope above all in this case that they continue down that path of just making this as seamless as possible. And I love the moves that they're making between cloud systems, again, making this so it's as simple as possible for enterprise companies to interact with this and not have to go through any new type of systems. Above all, though, I just can't wait to learn more about, what kind of market size we're dealing with in regards to fraud. I think there's so many different numbers that can bounce around, but I think above all, this is a relevant issue. It's something that's very realistic in today's world. It's a real problem that companies face, and I can't wait to see VID scale over time. So above all, nothing really too negative to say. More than anything, I just want to learn more about the project, do even more due diligence over time. I haven't bought any of the tokens just yet, guys, just to be completely transparent. But again, I'm going to be looking through and learning more about it as time progresses. All right, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. I appreciate you joining me on this video. And if you're interested to learn more, we've got a ton of links down below in the description. So that being said, everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. And I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.